Your brain on burnout, the big picture. Did you know your brain physically changes shape when you're burned out? I'm not talking about just feeling tired or stressed. I mean actual structural changes that scientists can see on brain scans. This is a physical condition that affects how your brain works. Your brain has 3 key regions that get damaged during burnout, each affecting your focus differently. The prefrontal cortex sits right behind your forehead and handles decision-making. The hippocampus manages memory, and the amygdala processes emotions. Damage to these areas triggers those frustrating burnout symptoms. These changes can persist for months or years without proper intervention. I spoke with a researcher who showed me brain scans from people who experienced severe burnout 5 years ago and still display altered brain structures. Concerning, isn't it? When constantly stressed, your body continuously produces cortisol. This hormone helps during short-term stress situations like escaping a bear. However, when it remains in your system for extended periods, it damages brain tissue. Your brain functions like a smartphone. Normally, you close apps when finished to conserve battery. Burnout resembles running 50 apps simultaneously. Your processor overheats, battery drains rapidly, and eventually the system malfunctions, mirroring what happens in your brain during burnout. Brain scans of burnout sufferers reveal measurable physical differences compared to healthy brains. The frontal cortex becomes thinner, the hippocampus can shrink, and the amygdala often enlarges and becomes more reactive. One study demonstrated that prolonged workplace stress correlates with significant reductions in gray matter volumes in stress-sensitive brain regions. Researchers can literally observe these changes on brain scans. These structural changes explain the symptoms you might experience. Sarah, a software developer I interviewed, described her prefrontal cortex damage. I used to code for hours without losing my train of thought. Now I barely make it through a single function without forgetting what I was doing. Mike, a teacher, exhibited hippocampus strain. I keep forgetting my students' names even though I've known them all year. Yesterday, I walked into a classroom and completely blanked on what subject I was supposed to be teaching. Jenna, a nurse, demonstrated amygdala overactivity. I started crying because the vending machine was out of my favorite snack. I never used to react that way to small stuff. During severe burnout, you might struggle with simple decisions like choosing lunch options. That's your prefrontal cortex malfunctioning. You might forget important meetings despite writing them down. Your hippocampus struggling. Or perhaps you snap at loved ones over minor issues, your amygdala in overdrive. These brain changes create a difficult cycle. An affected prefrontal cortex leads to poorer decisions about health and work-life balance. Hippocampus damage makes you forget self-care lessons. An overactive amygdala increases emotional reactions to stress, generating additional problems. A doctor explained that burnout's brain changes share similarities with depression and chronic stress disorders, but with unique patterns specifically affecting focus, memory, and emotional control. The neurotoxic effects of prolonged stress alter neural pathway functioning, explaining why burnout sufferers struggle with executive functions like planning and organizing, experience attention control and working memory deterioration, and suffer emotional exhaustion and irritability. One woman I interviewed couldn't remember her phone password after using it for 3 years. A man reported sitting in his car for 20 minutes, unable to decide whether to enter the grocery store or return home. These experiences directly result from physical brain changes. The good news? Your brain demonstrates remarkable resilience. These changes can reverse with appropriate intervention. Just as chronic stress alters your brain, it can recover when given proper healing conditions. A researcher compared it to a garden. Burnout resembles a drought, damaging plants. With proper care, water, nutrients, protection from harsh conditions, the garden regrows, sometimes stronger than before. In the upcoming sections, we'll examine each affected brain region in detail, starting with your prefrontal cortex, your brain's command center. When burnout strikes, it's as if your brain's CEO vanishes without notice. We'll explore exactly how this impacts your focus and what remedies exist before moving on to the hippocampus and amygdala in subsequent sections.